Well, the Israelis are claiming that, that the tower was used by the Hamas military organizations and that they were hiding behind civilians living in the tower block. This is a version which seems to be completely contradicted by the fact that Al-Jazeera were using the tower block and was Associated Press. Apparently, they were given 1 hour to clear the building. There was a conversation between the manager who ran the building and the Israeli authorities asking for a bit more time so that Al Jazeera and AP could get their equipment out of the tower. That was denied. Shortly after the 1 hour ran out, 6 rocket attacks were launched by Israeli aircraft against the tower, and it collapsed. You know, from the point of view of the Israelis, it's the sort of thing that is going to happen the longer this conflict goes on. And in terms of propaganda and conveying the storyline which the Israelis are trying to pursue, which is that they are under attack by rocket fire from Gaza and defending themselves, it's clearly not very helpful. Nor is the report that you mentioned earlier on that 10 people were killed, a family, in a rocket attack which hit a refugee camp in Gaza. The Hamas is saying that almost half the 139 people killed so far in Israeli attacks on Gaza have been women and children, despite the fact that the Israelis are saying that very large numbers of them have been Hamas operatives. You know, the longer this goes on, the worse it will reflect on Israel internationally. And you know, that's important for Israel. It has an image to sell.
I mean, Robbie, there's growing concern clearly about the length of time that this is going on. You know, questions about when this is going to stop. Both sides adamant that they'll continue with you know, their offensive. US and Arab diplomats, in the meantime, are seeking to calm the situation. Just walk us through, if you will, where we are when it comes to those efforts.
Yeah, sustainable calm is what they're looking for, apparently. You know, but also apparently, according to Egyptian sources who have not been named, Hamas was prepared on Thursday night to sign on to a ceasefire, but the Israelis were not prepared to do so, which suggests something about the war aims of both sides. Hamas probably feels that it's pretty much achieved all it needs to achieve at this stage in pushing the Palestinian issue back onto the international agenda and on radicalizing the Palestinian mood, both within Israel proper and on the West Bank, whereas Israel clearly feels that it has to go further to degrade Hamas within Gaza to make sure that it will learn a lesson for the future, not to launch an attack of this kind, you know, unless it really wants to face this sort of onslaught again. The Israelis clearly feel at this stage that they've not reached that point yet. So the question arises, are they prepared to talk? Well, they will talk, certainly. The fact that the US envoy is there, Hadi Amr, he's the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Israel and the Palestinian territories. He is very experienced, very knowledgeable, but he's not at a very high diplomatic level. And one wonders what message that is sending to the Israelis about the urgency of the situation as perceived by Washington. The Israelis may take that as a signal that they've got a bit more time to achieve their ends. But clearly, you know, it's getting to the point, you know, where diplomacy is going to have to take over. I don't think the Israelis are going to launch a ground offensive. It's far too risky for them, and with possibly wide implications for the developing communal rioting that's going on within Israel itself and on the West Bank.
All right, Rob Parsons, our chief